Welcome back, everybody. Last episode didn't go so well, but don't worry, we're making up for it today. It took a long time to get this montage together, but it was super worth it. It was a couple of hours condensed down into the nice, convenient size of 3 minutes. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in a bit.
Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow. Moving with the motion, following the light that sets me
That was a lot of time and work. Oh boy. That was at least 3.5 hours of mining condensed down into such a small period of time. And boy, guys, if there's one thing we're gonna do when we die in this series, it's not give up. We're gonna bounce back, and we bounced back hard. Let me show you the goodies that we got from that. So I went all the way up to level 7 and began enchanting some armor. Oh yeah, you can already see it there. We've got a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh. So, you guys ready? Yeah. Tons and tons of supplies. this goodie chest went from being really pathetic to fairly useful in a matter of seconds. Well, seconds for you guys, at the very least. Anyway, we have a lot of crap now, which is good because we didn't used to, and we definitely want to get more stuff. But the biggest thing is the enchanted gear. Let me show you these enchantments, guys. Silk Touch Efficiency 4, Unbreaking 3. That was extremely lucky. Extremely lucky. Protection 4, Unbreaking 3. Protection 4, Unbreaking 3. Protection 3, Unbreaking 3. Depth Strider 3. So, yeah, guys, we're gonna be way harder to kill. I also have some leggings, a shovel, a sword, an axe, and another pick that I'm planning to enchant when we get the time for this. So this is protection 3, pretty dang good. Might go for that. There's also unbreaking on a lot of the tools, and I think unbreaking on that as well. So everything is unbreaking. Let me check the book. Knockback, not so great. But yeah, we've got our Fortune 2 Efficiency 3 pick that we use to mine diamonds, coal, redstone, lapis. You know what Fortune does. I don't need to tell you. Silk Touch to mine basically everything else. We've got a lot of tools in there waiting to be enchanted. And then once we get everything enchanted, we're gonna be so set. We've got so much stuff. Let me just move this out real fast. We also got a couple more bones just from random skeletons dying. And yeah, we're looking great, guys. Now, without water breathing or a technique to breathe underwater, we still are gonna have a bit of a rough time with those monuments, especially with the crappy food that we've got, like carrots. They are not the best food source, that is for sure. And we sadly did lose our turtle shell that we worked so long to get. So it's not exactly easy to recover from that loss as well. But oh man, everything's grown again. Yeah. I even harvested it once in between the mining too. We have a couple of other choices. We could try to do something with the villagers, which would be cool, but it would also be kind of a pain to transport them. It's a possibility. I don't know. If we did something with villagers, it might be easier to just do it over there rather than bringing them all over here. Another possibility is we could try to build some kind of structure over around here and plan out this a little bit more. Maybe we could dig up the earth around this place, kind of get the biodomes off the dock, so to speak. We could also start building some of these other biodomes. I mean, I would like to do that maybe after a round or two more of cactus. I'm trying to build up a decent supply of cactus so we can build a pretty big farm of it if we want, as well as just generally if we want dye. We can always break into the stash without having to feel like we're using the rest of our cactus. Because if there's one thing I don't want to do, it's go all the way back to the desert just to get cactus. I think we should be as self-sufficient as we can. That being said, this is all sandstone, so we actually are down to very, very small amounts of glass and sand. So we'll probably have to visit the desert again anyway, just simply for the purpose of refilling those things, which I'm okay with. I don't want to go to the desert, but at the same time I don't really mind. It's a change of pace from a lot of the mining we've been doing. Another option for sure is we can go exploring, trying to find like a swamp, or alternatively we could use slime chunk finder and find some slime chunks that way. But the main thing is we need slime balls for sticky pistons, guys, because if we get sticky pistons, then we can actually start using a lot of the redstone that we have, because there are some designs for a lot of redstone farms with just regular pistons, but you just get a lot more options and they look a lot better if you can use sticky pistons. And so getting access to those is something I would want to prioritize before we do any major redstone farms. But I am planning on doing quite a few redstone farms in this world as well. I think there's a lot of interesting things we can do with redstone. So, that leaves us with another question. What project should we work on today? We've already done a substantial amount of mining. I don't think we need to do any mining soon. I think all the mining in the future is probably going to be done off camera. Oh my goodness, a phantom. Okay, let's sleep actually. Phantoms are really dangerous, guys. Holy cow. I can't believe how bad phantoms are. Like, even when you're decked out, they're a pain to deal with, that's for sure. So one thing that we need to work on that I've kind of been putting off because I'm not exactly sure what the best way to go about it is the boiler room downstairs. Part of the reason I've been putting it off is because I don't really know what design to use on it. Like, I kind of want to do something with prismarine, but we don't really have that yet. Was thinking about concrete, that's another option, but I'm just not entirely decided on anything about it. I did have one cool idea that we can probably try today, but I don't know how much wood, like if we have the amount of wood that we would want ideally for that. We can at least get it a little bit started and we'll see how it'll go. So the way that would work is some sort of roots from this tree kind of seeping through the ceiling of this boiler room. Another reason that might be okay is like we could just have roots kind of dangling from the ceiling. And I'm unsure what to think about that, but at the same time it kind of fits the theme, right? And then we could still do stuff on the walls. Like the wall can still be a different kind of stuff, but perhaps for the ceiling, like, let me show you guys an example of what I was thinking perhaps might work. So let's take a little space out up here, just so we have a little bit of room to work with. And then maybe something like this, right? So actually, I guess technically we can just do that because we're not planning on having that block there exactly be. Something like that. I mean, that's not exactly the best example, maybe. Might be okay. We'd have to experiment around with it a little bit more, I think. I'll have to get back to you guys in a second when I've done a little bit more experimenting. I'll see if there's anything that kind of looks this way that I think works. Welcome back, guys. So I've been doing a lot of experimenting and this is what I've got so far, and I gotta say I'm liking it. I'm not sure exactly on all the details. Like, there's probably a bunch of little things that I can improve upon, but I think the style overall is I'm pretty happy with it so far. There's a lot of little detailing that makes it look so much more realistic. All of these tiny little roots and just logs poking up out of the ground, and it looks like the dirt is falling down, and you got patches of this coarse dirt in the grass, stuff like that. And then I like these side trees a lot as well. Side trees, more like roots. I did bring some leaves. I know they're kind of cheaty because you just plop leaves down and it makes stuff look better, I swear. But I was thinking about using some, guys. Not sold on it just yet, but we're pretty darn close. And actually, I'm gonna take that piece of wood back, because if it's gonna be going there anyway, then there's no real reason to waste it. But yeah, so this has been pretty good, I'd say, so far. The detailing, there's a lot of little stuff that I'm trying to work out still, just trying to make it look good. And the general gist of that is just kind of making it a little bit more random. And I still need to do all of that over there, but it takes a lot of wood. So we might have to get like 80% of the way done today and then kind of finish it up a little bit later. But this style, the nature style, as I like to call it, is so good looking. It's really difficult to beat in terms of the looks, and that's kind of a bad thing, because it makes me default towards it, because it's simple, not super difficult to put together, looks really good. Like, all you gotta do is throw in some random naturey looking blocks and sprinkle it together, and it looks very organic. Like, it's a very effective building strategy. If you guys don't know what to build, just kind of build nature and it'll work out, I swear. But that's the basic floor. The grass is going to keep spreading to the regular dirt, but it won't spread on the coarse dirt, which I think will help give it a better effect. Now, I know, it doesn't make any sense for leaves to be down here in the roots, but just to give it a little bit more color, and also just because you throw leaves in and the look just explodes in value. See, look at this. All it takes is a couple of leaves and you instantly have this heightened effect. Oh yeah, that's so good. So I'm gonna throw in a couple of more details on this side, and I guess I'll just walk you guys through the basic process that I do. So what I do is I kind of mine a lot of blocks, more or less randomly, and I try to mine up pretty tall too. So this level right here is like 5 blocks off the ground. I like to mine into 6 and even 7 sometimes. Especially in the middle, it's better to go deep in the middle, because that's where your stuff is more likely to kind of sit, I guess. But yeah, so you throw down some dirt as well as coarse dirt, kind of intermixed. And then the basic idea is you just want to make a bunch of root looking structures. And there's a couple of like simple rule-ish things that you can follow with this. Is that you don't really want the dirt to stick out, so things that stick out are the wood. The dirt usually is always either at the same level as the wood or back one level, so the wood is the only thing that sticks out. You don't have dirt hanging down, because that would look really weird. So see here how I put this wood down, and the dirt is either at this level or below it. You never have dirt like here, that would just look weird. And so what I like to do is just kind of plop a couple of logs, that maybe a couple of logs in a different shape, break it down a little bit, throw a torch up there to keep it nice and bright, and then shape a lot of this nearby area with the dirt, the coarse dirt. And you can leave some stone. In fact, you want a little bit of stone as well. It gives it a little bit more variety, as well as provides more structure than the dirt, so it feels more intact if you've got stone, but it feels more livable for roots if you've got dirt, right? And so it's that trade-off between looking secure and looking like it's being taken over by roots. And it's that kind of trade-off that you're going for, really. So the main idea, though, is with the detailing, like that's kind of awkward. I would rather have this log stick out a bit, And then this log looks as though it's like part of a branch. And so whenever you have log connections, you want them to connect into dirt. You want to avoid the log connects into stone kind of look, like this. Wherever the log would connect, that's where you want to be putting some dirt. Because the log would need dirt to grow there, right? So it just kind of makes sense that if you have logs around, that the area nearby the logs is gotta be kind of turned into dirt. You don't want to do this too specifically though, or else it'll be pretty obvious what effect you're trying to do. You want to leave some of it. It needs to look natural, right? So some dirt, some stone. You never want to go too extreme on either. And even just leaving like some little gaps like this. Then maybe if you throw some logs in the back, give it some different texture and depth. So the texture and depth are the two key things for this. You want either a lot of variation or you want depth variation. So there's two ways you can do that, and a mixture of both is, in my opinion, what gives the best effect. So here I'm just going to create some variation. Variation in the block types, at least, that is. And the way you're going to do that is just break a lot of the randoms chunks off, like this. And you create a bit of a random shape. And then you kind of go back and you fill in that shape with some of the materials that you would want to fill it in with, which in this case is dirt and logs. So I'm just going to fill in a couple of these spots with some logs and where I think they would go. Like that. We're going to need to go get a couple more logs, by the way, guys, but that's not a big deal. And yeah, focus on the big things, the variation, because those are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. You could spend forever making one detail look really good, but the easiest path is just to fix it so there's a whole lot of little details rather than one outstanding thing. So what I could do is I could go and I could focus on one section and I could make that section look perfect. But in reality, that one section is never going to be looked at for very long. So you just need the sections to be good enough that when you look at them at a glance, you'll be like, oh wow, that section looks really good. And you won't have to, you won't have to think very much about it, right? So you don't need a lot of particularly perfect things in your builds. You just need one or two that stand out as being really good. So that's the biggest time saver that you can basically get, is focus on a lot of the details, specifically the small details, but don't over focus. So you want focus, but you don't want it to become the only thing that you're doing. So for example, right here, this root right here, I'm going to have this root stick out a lot more than perhaps the other roots would. I'm going to emphasize it by dropping it a little bit lower. So I'm going to get the surroundings to be kind of fleshed out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to emphasize this root right here by dropping it like that. And what I would actually probably want to do instead is focus that on the vertical rather than the horizontal. Same with that one as well. So this root is going to be very prominent compared to a lot of these other roots. We can make it even bigger by doing this kind of thing, by making it stick out, focusing in on that depth aspect of the root. Oh boy, and we got some gravel up there. But that's the biggest key, is just getting the variation and getting that depth. If you can find an easy way to get a lot of depth, your build will look way better because of it. So we gotta clear away this gravel real fast. And let's see, are there any other minor touches that we can do? I'm not seeing a lot of little things that we can do at this point, but I do think the color over on this side is just generally too gray. So if we just replace a lot of these stone blocks with some dirt, I think that'll help a lot with the color that we're talking about. So now if we look at this side compared to this side over here, you notice how they feel different. This one is a little bit more open, the size is a little higher. This one is a little bit more closed in and compact. And what that what that effectively does, that variation between these two rooms, is it makes them feel like different sizes. At least it can easily have that effect. So this room feels a lot bigger than this room right here. And I think that helps to emphasize this wall right here, which has all this glass in it. And obviously, as you can see, it helps to focus in more on this. Whereas this room, where there's not so much in the back to focus in on, you're able to see the depth in the top a lot easier than in this room, where we kind of want you to look out here. And so you kind of want to play to the spaces that you're going to be using, right? So in here, we're going to have some more dirt, just to keep up with the theme. And actually, we should make a little bit of this dirt into coarse dirt, so that we can keep varying texture. I actually think coarse dirt is really, really good in a lot of different builds. It just provides such a good texture for so many things. And I think it's a little underrated, to be honest. But so yeah, what we're gonna do is right here, in order to provide a little bit more variation, we're gonna actually have a root kind of taking up this space. And actually, we kind of want to save as many of those logs as we can. So a root is going to kind of take up this space. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide a lot of free depth for us, right? Because it's breaking into the pattern for us. It makes it look like something's going on around here. And then right here, we're going to have another piece of log right there. We're going to build up a little bit more dirt around this area where the cobblestone is. And it's actually looking pretty put together, guys. So I'm gonna fill in a couple more random spaces. Like right here, we can easily just kind of chisel out a couple of blocks. Look for some alternatives like that. And it already is feeling like the roots and the trees are kind of overtaking this spot. So what I would like to do here, dig in a little bit. You don't always have to be at the same level. Like right here, we're gonna have this little bit of a box, and that's gonna look interesting. You just kind of want a little bit of randomness in a lot of your nature builds, because it makes it feel more organic and more alive. So for example, right here, this is looking a bit too scripted for this section compared to these. So I'm just gonna take off a couple blocks there and replace those back ones a little, and see, it already feels a little bit more alive. Another thing that you should definitely get in the practice of doing is trying to get light in the important parts of your build. So you want it to be nice and bright, especially where it matters. And like for example up here, if we get a light in there, it'll make that entire spot just look a little bit better. So we're gonna need some more leaves, and I would like to put a little bit more wood in this side too, because this side feels very organic and very tree. This side just feels more like dirt. And so two ways that we can fix that are A, adding in just a couple of random leaves, and B, increasing the density of wood in the location. So when you're doing this kind of random style, one important thing to keep in mind is that you will very quickly, your build will very quickly adopt the texture of the most prominent texture in the build. So for example, if you use a lot of wood, your build will look more wooden. If you use a lot of stone, it'll look more stone. And it seems very common sense at first, but you gotta understand that the key is, even though you might have a dominant texture, you do not want that dominant texture to be the only texture. dominant is just power. It's not the only thing, because it doesn't determine any of the detailing. The detailing has to be distinct in order for it to look interesting, at least in my experience. There's definitely a lot of other ways to build. I'm not saying like mine is the only way or that I'm the best at it or anything like that. I know there's tons of other people who do things completely different to me. I'm just providing one opinion on things that I use in my builds. And there's a million other ways to do it. I'm sure if you guys would like, you could find tons of different options, and I'm sure that they would all work. But for this specific style, that's all I mean with that. So we need a little bit more logs in this whole spot, just because the other side was very log dense. Like we have them all over the place on the other side. Whereas this side, that's not a very nicely positioned log either. Whereas on this side, it still has a little bit of that dirt vibe to it. And actually, a couple of logs in the ground as well, just as random roots, can help with the texturing a lot, and I think I've been kind of putting that off. Not because I didn't want to, just because I haven't thought of it at the moment. But yeah, one key element of building is just kind of play around with it for a while. Like, let your imagination flow. You don't have to have a specific plan always, and well, a lot of times the plan can help kind of guide you where you want to go. In my experience, having a concrete plan can kind of get rid of a lot of good ideas that you only find in the moment. So be open to having the plan change, because sometimes the new plan is actually better looking than the old plan. And that's just kind of how things are sometimes. So that looks really good, guys. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this boiler room so far. We do need to put this other furnace down though, because we still want to have that furnace around. And I'm just gonna quickly fill a lot of these up with a bunch more kelp blocks, because we might end up needing to use these at some point in the future, namely to smelt a lot of glass. And if we do this now, it'll save us a little bit of time in the future. But yeah, guys, huge progress on everything this episode. I hope that this makes up for the failure that was last episode. If not, that's okay. I understand. Last episode failed pretty dang hard, that's for sure. But don't worry, guys. The world is not down. The world is never gonna end. Well, it might end someday, but that's a long ways away, my friends. We're gonna get to that road as we hit it, but you won't have to worry about that anytime soon. I'm planning on continuing this series, for sure. Around holidays, I'm probably gonna not upload very many. I mean, I might upload a few, but I'm definitely expect like around Christmas for some time off, because I'm gonna be visiting some family and I won't really have time to be producing these when I'm away. But have no fear, because as soon as the holidays are over, I will be right back at it, cracking away in this world. I think that's everything for this episode. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys later.